they call me Dare to Search, that's my internet name. I'm gonna tell you a little about my childhood. I was born in Ohio, the only one of 4 kids born there. My parents came up from Florida, but their story started farther south. Mama was born in Alabama, and Daddy was born in Georgia. They came north looking for better jobs, more opportunities, and a life where their children could grow strong and proud. I didn't know it back then, but what they were part of was called the Great Migration, when millions of black families moved from the South to the North, Midwest, and West to escape racism and poverty. They were moving toward hope, and they brought their Southern roots with them. When my parents first got to Ohio, they stayed with relatives. Eventually, we moved into our own home. But even then, our door stayed open. My uncle lived with us, then my grandma, and later my aunt, until they each got places of their own. Our house was always full. Full of voices, food, wisdom, and love. I remember the first time I tried to sew. My fingers were small, and the thimble was too big. I told Grandma, "It doesn't fit." She smiled and said, "Baby, life won't always fit either. That's when you make adjustments." Think of that thimble like life. You move different, stretch different, but you don't stop sewing. That thimble became more than a sewing tool, it became a lesson about life. I learned to eat greens and cornbread with my fingers, just like Grandma did back home. And I learned to comb my hair with my fingers, because she said, God gave you what you need. One Sunday, I saw a girl dancing in church and asked Grandma if that was something new. She looked at me and said, "No, baby. Dance was in the church before it ever hit a nightclub. It was spirit. It was praise. It was how we talked to God without words. What I didn't learn in school." In the 1960s, when I was growing up, schools didn't teach us about things like the Great Migration. They didn't teach us Black history at all, not the real kind. We didn't learn about Africa before slavery. We didn't learn about Black inventors, leaders, or freedom fighters. Maybe we'd hear the name Harriet Tubman or George Washington Carver, but not much more. When I got my textbooks, I'd look at the signature slip in the front. There were usually 3 or 4 names already there, and they weren't from kids at my school. They were names from other places, from years ago. Mama told me we were getting hand-me-down books, not just in pages, but in history too. What my family taught me is that in our house, nobody forgot where we came from. My grandma, my parents, they carried the South in their bones. They showed me that being country wasn't something to hide, it was something to stand on. We didn't have to talk fancy to speak truth. We didn't have to have expensive clothes to have style. And we didn't have to follow the world to know God lives in us too. But I also know this. We are not weak. We are not behind. We are not lost. Because we come from people who learned to live, survive, and thrive, even when nothing fit. Like my grandma said about that thimble, adjust, and keep going. My message to other kids. Ask your elders. Find out how your family made it through. Learn how to use your fingers, to sew, to cook, to pray, to comb your hair with pride. Dance if the spirit moves you. And never, ever be ashamed of where you come from. Because your roots are your strength. And from your grandma's hands to yours, you carry more power than you know.